Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Scott Allan. He is an author, motivational speaker, and entrepreneur. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
You are welcome to the show. You are welcome to India in this online form, Allan. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk about. We'll be talking about how one can reinvent his or her life. So, my first question to you, Scott, is that what does this reinventing of life mean? Is it like people say reinvent, let's not reinvent the wheel? So should we go for reinventing? What does reinventing mean? I want to understand from your understanding of this particular thing.
Sure, that's a great question. So if we were to break it down, I'll package this up in a way that people can digest it easily. So for me, what it meant when I started to reinvent my life for the first time, and the reason I say that is because this is something that we should always be working towards, is reinventing our lives, even if it's one piece at a time. But to break it down, it begins with changing your behavior. So when you change your behavior, you can start to act differently and you'll make new decisions that you had not made before. So when I refer to reinventing your life, it's about creating yourself in a new way, so that you can move forward towards your goals. And I think that a big part of this comes down to getting really clear on what it is that you, first of all, want to achieve, but secondly, who do you want to become? And this is something we really need to sit down and, think about really deeply with ourselves. So what I do is I will sit down and I'll make a list of my goals, things that I want to strive for, that I've always been afraid to work towards, probably because the fear of failure is a real thing. So that's something that gets in the way with a lot of people, is that, they're afraid to change something, because if they do, they might lose the friends that they have. They might, change something about themselves that they later regret. But I think the only thing that we'll regret are the things that we never actually ended up doing in the first place. So just to bring us back to the question, reinventing your life is about making choices that are going to make your life great. And I think that part of my philosophy and probably my mission is to create a great life that not only does it mean something great to myself, but it's actually helping everybody else that I come into contact with, whether that's online, could be friends, family. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it does. So basically, reinventing means trying out things which you did not try in the first place. Is it mostly about that? Because that's the regret perhaps a lot of people have, that they should have gone that way, but they went the other way.
Yeah. So I think one of the first steps here is that you have to realize, you have to recognize within yourself that there is something you want to change. So it's not about changing your whole life overnight. You really do have to take it into, small steps, right? So let's start with self-image. Actually, is one of the bigger steps that when I'm coaching people through this, their self-image plays a big part in how they are able to reinvent their lives. Because, give you an example, we wake up every day, we have habits that we start rolling into. A lot of these habits are just repetitive, and habits are a good thing, but the bad habits that we have, they're only bad habits if they're not helping us to construct a life that, we can be happy with. So a big part of the training when it comes to reinventing your life is to, first of all, take a look at your self-image. And when we break that down, a lot of your self-image, it has to do with, how do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about, When you go to work, is that something a lot of people hate their jobs, and that's okay if you're in that situation, because if you feel that that is something you want to change, that may be a part of reinventing yourself, is a part of changing what you're doing with your life so that you can do something greater in the future. And this is not always an easy fix, right? Which is why you need to commit yourself to the long term of making those conscious choices so that you can continuously improve yourself moving forward. So, to give you an example, I spend an hour a day um, learning. So, learning new things, doing reading, listening to podcasts, watching interviews, and also meditation is a big piece of this as well. Because when I'm meditating, I'm actually visualizing the future that I want to have. And I think with a lot of us, we're always we're in a war every day with our own mind, and we always want to go back to the past, relive a lot of that. We want to um, we want things to be different than the way that we had imagined back in the day, but they can't be. The only thing you have is today, right? So you have to start with that. Yes, we all have a past. There are things that we did and things that happened that we wish we hadn't done, and things that we wish hadn't been done to us. But with all that said, the only question is, what are you going to do now, from today? So it really has to begin with that question. The next thing is to get clarity on what it is that you want to start moving towards. And this doesn't mean you have to have everything all figured out, but you do have to sit down. And I love to do mind mapping. I'll sit down and I'll make a mind map of put myself in the center of that, and I'll start to branch out and start to mind map all the things that, if I were to be living the ideal life, the ideal day, what would that look like? And these are the questions that's going to start to trigger your thoughts to move in a different direction. And yeah, we always have we have a lot of the same thoughts every day. That's going to happen. That's natural. And if we have 50,000 thoughts a day, well, we can't control all of them. But think about the thoughts that you can control. There's a lot of things that we can actually control that we just give up to whatever, and we just let life take over. But you actually have the power to direct your life in the direction that you want it to go. But you do have to, first of all, get clear on what you want. And for that, I always rely back, I always fall back on what my goals are. If you don't know what your goals are, well, that's great. Now you've got a place to start with. I do a lot of journaling, and I think that journaling is a great way to get the thoughts out of your head down on paper, because you need to see everything. For me, I need to see everything out in the open. And you can either journal it, you can put a mind map up on the wall and use sticky notes, whatever it takes. But this is something that you want to spend time on. I have a vision board in the office where I do a lot of my work, and the vision board has a lot of the places where places I want to go, things I want to do, and all of this is working together to ultimately become the greatest version of myself that I want to become. And today, that is, we are that person. But just think of what you could accomplish, or who you could become in the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years. Right. So don't give up on yourself. The fear of failure is really just something that whenever we are afraid of failure, we're looking back on the past and we're judging ourselves for all those past failures. And I look at those as learning experiences. We're all experiencing life in the now. And this moment is going to become your past very soon. But everything is working together in your favor. Right. So one of the things that I'd recommend to people who are listening is that number one, get clear on what you want. Number two, make a decision. And it doesn't have to be a big decision. It just has to be a decision to take action towards one thing. And the third thing would be when you wake up in the morning, and this is something that's really had a big impact on my life when I started doing this about 3 months ago, is and I think Mel Robbins, she uses this a lot in one of her books, but she talks about the standing in front of the mirror and just having a conversation with yourself for 5 minutes. I used to hate looking in the mirror, and this is part of the self-image as well, but I used to hate looking in the mirror just because I don't know, the reflection there just wasn't, I felt like it wasn't who I wanted to become. But I started having conversations with myself in the morning, and it really just cleared my mind away. So it may be uncomfortable, but then again, so is changing your life. It is uncomfortable and it's not easy. If it were, I think everybody would be doing it, right? And I want everybody to try it. You have to, you owe it to yourself, because it's not just about reinventing your own life, but when you change, you have the power. You develop the confidence and the clarity and the focus to help other people do the same thing. So it's just passing it on. So.
Right, right, Scott. So, how do we look at procrastination? Because procrastination could be problem today, in past life, and even if I try to reinvent, procrastination can be very much there. So,
Mm,
how do we get rid of the procrastinator in me?
sure. Well, procrastination is a very powerful form of negative behavior. And I say negative behavior because I spent many years as a chronic procrastinator, meaning that whenever I came up against any form of challenge, procrastination was always the default behavior to helping me deal with the anxiety, right? So I don't know if we can actually be rid of procrastination. It's not something you have to just get rid of, and close the door on it and hope that it never comes back. You'll always feel the need to procrastinate when you come up against a challenge, and you're going to feel the resistance. And I still, deal with this every day with multiple things. There are things I'm procrastinating on today, even, where I'm like, I know I should be doing this thing, but it's really hard. So I'm going to go over here and do something easy. And in my book, Do the Hard Things First, that's really, the first book is based on dealing with that problem. And so as I was working on this issue and how to help people solve this and how to solve it for myself, I started working on the little things. Like, I'll give you an example. All right. I hate filling out forms. So application forms, anything. I had a whole bunch of these in my, stashed away in my drawer. And every time I looked at them, I just felt this overwhelming sense of like anxiety and pressure. And I just didn't want to look at it. So that's why I put them away. And a coach, mentor of mine said, look, just take out one of the forms and write your name on it. That's it. That's today, do that. And then tomorrow, do the next line. And I know it sounds like a very obvious thing to do, like just fill it out and get it done. But the one thing that holds us back is taking that first step. And it can be a very small thing. You just need to do one little thing to move yourself forward. And everything that I've ever gotten hung up on, whenever I felt like I was being held back by procrastination, it was really just my way of trying to deal with the problem by not dealing with it. Right. So the forms, filling out the forms is just an example, but I actually ended up getting this form that I had been procrastinating on for months. It took me about 3 days to fill it out, but I just did one piece at a time, and eventually I got it done. And then I did another one. And soon that, the drawer was empty, didn't have any more application forms. But I started going around. I started making a note of everything else that I was procrastinating on. And what I would do is I would just write this down at the top of the page. And then I would make a list of all the little things that I could do to work on this one. We'll call it a project. It could be a project or, just something that I was stuck on, But that's I think in the book, I call it like the 5-minute rule. Some people refer to it as the 2-minute rule. But just to make it simple, it's just one little step. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to do the whole thing today. But you do need to, start doing something so you can move forward. That's the name of the game. So,
Right, right, Scott. How should we look at this reasoning when people say, listen, uh, what you call as procrastination, it is patience. So, patience, how do you differentiate between procrastination and patience? I
mm,
have a form, there's still a week to go, and
mhm,
I am just, taking my time.
mhm,
What's wrong with that reasoning? People say procrastination is not that bad, that it is also the sign of positivity. And also, in terms of, earlier people were patient with things. Nowadays, because of the deadline culture, We tend to give deadline to everything, and our mind starts, resenting those deadline, and our patience can become procrastination for others. Help us deal with this if some people look at it that way.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. Yeah. And there is a difference between procrastinating on something and just being patient with it. So, for me, like procrastination is something that is holding me back from moving forward. Right now, we could say the same thing about patience because, but I think we have to define, um, am I being patient with this thing or have I been putting it off for a long time? And I think that you really have to tap into your emotions. Like, how are you feeling about this? Like to give you an example, uh, I think that we have to be patient. We have to be patient with our children, for example, because children take a long time to grow. They need lessons, and they need tutoring, and they need mentorship. So they're not going to grow up overnight, of course. So that's something that when my children were smaller, I always had to practice patience, and that was just something that as I was working with my children and helping them to move through some of life's more difficult moments, I noticed that it wasn't just helping them with patience. It was also I was also teaching myself to be patient with certain things. But when it comes to procrastination, the difference between that and patience was really the procrastination is something that I knew it was something that was holding me back. Because when I asked myself, can I actually do something about this? If I can do something about this problem and I'm not doing something about it, then I'm putting it off, right? And if it's something that I can't do something about right now, well, that's patience. It's like, well, I know that this project needs to get done by next week, but I'm actually waiting on, somebody on my team to deliver something to me before I can move forward with it. So that's fine. I need to, and if they're taking longer than, if they're past the deadline, then, I need to get things moving forward. So, but patience, we can only be patient with something for so long. But if you're waiting on someone to, deliver something, then, then we need to, move things forward, I think. So, yeah, but I think that patience is a good thing. The only thing I was going to mention on that is that, there's an old saying that, you should be, we need to be patient for the things that we want to get. And although I agree with that sort of to a certain point, I think that if we wait too long, we'll end up getting the leftovers of the things of, the people who got there first before us, right? So, it's fine. It's okay to take time to plan your next move, but don't take forever with it. Sooner or later, whether you think you have the right decision or not, you've got to make a decision, right? So that's actually just one more point with that, is that sometimes we think we're being patient by not making a decision. It's like, well, I'll decide on this tomorrow because I'm not really sure right now. Maybe I'm waiting for something. But this is where things can get a little, it can be a bit of a gray space, because I may be procrastinating on making a decision because I don't want to move forward with this thing. So always just ask yourself that question: is there something that I can do about this situation? And even if it's just a small thing, then do it. And if you're still waiting for something, something else needs to happen before you can move forward with it, then, you can wait on that thing. But always just be clear that, if it's something that's out of your control, that's fine. But if it's something you can do, then I would just dive in and do it.
Right, Scott. Now, help us understand. You say about, that fear contributes to procrastination. And then you also say doing the hard things first.
Mm.
So, as soon as I go and start looking at the hard things list first thing in the morning, it can fill me with fear and I will procrastinate. How do we calibrate these two aspects?
Sure, yeah. So a practice that works really well is the night before, and I think this is really the key. The night before, that hard thing that you've been putting off, and I have these hard things, I have several of them every day. I write them down on a list. I make a list of what they are, and it doesn't have to be a long list. You can write down the one thing that's holding you back, or you can just write down, I would say, 3 things at the most. That doesn't mean that you have to do all three things first thing in the morning, but if you do the hard thing first, then you're actually going to, you're going to fill yourself up with positive energy. And one of the things that, I'll give you an example, actually, like when I wake up in the morning, one of the things that I don't want to do is actually exercise, right? So this could be 10 or 15 minutes of whether it's you're doing yoga, stretching, doing weights, whatever it may be. That's the one thing that I actually don't want to do first thing in the morning. Some people love it, so that's not one of their hard things. It is one of my hard things. So that's one of the things that I actually do in the morning. And I feel that resistance, right? But again, it's starting that thing. And it's just, I know that it's the thing that I'm going to do because the night before it's on my list. I'm going to do 15 minutes of this and I actually have it written down. And then I'll go to the second thing and then I'll go to the third thing. I usually have three things because if you're doing 3 hard things a day, you're in great shape. If you're doing 1 hard thing a day, that's great. Give yourself a time frame for that as well. So depends on what it is that you're struggling with. It could be making a phone call. I was working with somebody, and one of the hardest things that they had to do every day was call difficult clients, or they were just really difficult sales calls. And he had a list of the people who he had to call on his, and I noticed that I think the difficult customers were always at the bottom of the list. And I said, well, put them at the top of the list, because as he was working through the list, he was dreading having that final call, and it just created a lot of anxiety. So I think that's one of the benefits to doing the hard things first, is that you might feel the fear, like you said, when you first go into it. But you're going to conquer the anxiety, like once you get it done, and then you're going to be like, well, that actually wasn't so bad. Maybe I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow. And then, the more that you practice this thing, it's going to become a positive habit in your life, and probably a positive force. It's going to be something that you're actually going to start looking forward to doing. And there will always be hard things that we don't want to do. And I think that the best thing you can do for yourself is just to identify what it is, identify why you think it is a hard thing. And again, there's usually fear that comes with that. And I think the fear is like, what if I do this thing, what if I fail at it, or what if I don't do it tomorrow, or, and then we start to, that the negative thought patterns start jumping in, and we start to, have the self-doubt and uncertainty. So. But one more thing I was going to mention is if you have a timer, just put yourself on a timer as well. Give yourself like again, starting it is always the hardest thing. 5 or 10 minutes into it, and maybe this hard thing might only take you 5 minutes, but as soon as you start something, you're moving your energy forward, and you're able to. You have to prove to yourself that you can do this. Like, that's the thing. You have to show up for yourself, right? So by doing the hard things first, showing up for yourself, getting it done, you're it's not just a confidence booster. You're actually proving to yourself that you can trust yourself to actually get this thing done. And I always felt that way when I was able to tackle something that I had been procrastinating on for a long time, because it hurts to not do these things, actually, like over the length of, like, whether it's days, weeks, months, or years. It actually emotionally hurts us to hold this stuff in, because every time you think about that thing, or you look at that thing, you're just gonna feel bad about yourself, right? So why put yourself through that? Just get it done and then move on to the next thing. So.
Right, Scott. There is much to learn from you. There is much to learn from your books, and there is much to learn from this book. Fail big, relaunch your life, and do the hard things first. Who is this book for? What have you dealt in this book?
Yeah, this book is for anybody who really wants to take definitive action and make a great life out of the life that they currently have. And I'm not saying that, your life, wherever you are right now, whatever stage of your life you're in, and you might already be living that great life, right? I believe I am. But the thing is like, it can always be better. And not just that, but if you are living a great life, you're actually in a great position to teach it to other people, because a lot of people out there, they need mentors and coaches. And so these books are really designed to, as we'll call them, self-help books. And, they're designed to take you from where you are to where you want to be. but they're also designed so that you can take those lessons, integrate them, and teach them to your family, your friends, people at work. So that's really my hope for the material that I put together, is that people can share it, with everybody else. And these books are also available in India and probably 6-7 other languages as well. So they've been picked up by a lot of other publishers, because I think that it doesn't matter where you're living in the world, what language you speak, none of that matters. At the end, we're all human beings just trying to become better, right? Better at what we do, better at how we communicate, form relationships. So
Right. As I said, there's much to learn from you. So a lot of people who would want to learn about you, learn from you, engage with you. What is the best way for them to do so, Scott?
absolutely, yeah. So they can, of course, go online. You can go to Amazon, plug in Scott Allan Books. You'll find my books on there, probably in most countries, I would think. And then depending on where you live, you might even find the books in the bookstores. You can also visit me at scottallanpublishing.com. And soon we'll be launching books direct on through our Shopify site at scottallanbooks.com. So you can find me there. And I also have a newsletter people can sign up for too.
Wonderful. With this, it's set up on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.